Hey there everyone, I want to show you the Graco G15 gun. This gun's a couple years old. I had bought this gun back when I did pre-cat lacquers and conversion varnish. Great little gun. The Merker pump that I had with this, the Graco Merker pump, was a 15-to-1 pump. Worked great for the coatings I was using with the solvent, but when I went to water-based products, it didn't work real great because the 15-to-1 just found didn't seem to be a strong enough pump. So I kind of put this thing away and haven't used it. I have used my Kremlin Excite gun. I've got the Wagner GM4700, and I'm experimenting with a couple other guns at the moment. But somebody recommended I should try this gun with waterborne, so I actually just hooked this up to my T5, my Tritech airless. I hooked it up there, hooked the fluid line to that. This fluid line hooks right to it without any special fittings. And then I just put the air line to a small air compressor. I'll just shoot down here to this air compressor a little bit. This is just a small air compressor. This is a 2-horse air compressor. So I put this little regulator on it so I can regulate the air. And I'd say I'm pretty impressed with the way that this thing sprays. I would say it's yeah, very much equal to the Kremlin Excite gun, really, in my opinion, for the water-based coatings anyway. I did talk to a Graco rep, and I asked him, about the new guns. They don't make this particular gun anymore. They now make one called a Perform AA or something like that it's called. So I guess it's an improved G15, but it's basically the same. They also have a number of different air caps you can buy for this gun. It's actually made for the Perform AA, but it fits on here. So I have this blue air cap I found. It's the 2WB042. It's made for waterborne coatings. So I thought I'd give it a try just to see how it works. And seems to work great. I also replaced the little seals inside the air cap here, just so that my fan pattern doesn't get messed up. Those are pretty critical to make sure that those are in good condition, so replace those every once in a while. That'll help your fan pattern adjustment. You don't have a lot of adjustment, but a little bit. I'm using a brand new 411 tip, and up to an 11 tip they have, well, you can't see because there's paint, but they have a little screen inside that tip, which I find really helpful for spraying these high viscosity coatings. The problem I was having before, I was using a little bigger tip, I think a 13 tip, and they don't have a screen in them, and so I was getting just a lot of clogs. Part of that might have been just my filtration too, I don't know. But anyway, I do like the 411 tip, works great for top coats. Haven't sprayed a lot of primer with this yet, but top coats sprays really nice. I only got my fluid pressure set at about 600, between 500 and 700. I started at 500, actually works at 500 PSI. I bumped it up to about 650 or so. And then my air pressure would be, when my gun is triggered, my air is at about 15. And I really like the way this sprays, not a lot of overspray. Sprays a nice pattern with low fluid pressure, low air pressure. And I would say it's my pressures are pretty much equal to what I was doing with my Kremlin gun, and the spray quality, I don't know, in my opinion, it looks the same. So let's spray a couple doors. is really quiet. It's very, very quiet. California Air, ultra quiet, oil-free, 2-tank. They make this same one in a 1 horsepower motor for a little cheaper, but it's worth getting the 2 horsepower. But I will tell you too, they're quite heavy. It really is a heavy. It's not as light as what it looks. And the CFM on it is working great for what I'm doing with this. Probably wouldn't be okay if you'd be running straight cup gun HVLP, but for air assisted, it's working great. Just to move over here a little bit, just to show them the Tritech T5 blue line hooked up to here to my pressure gauge. I'm at about 5, 6, 7, 8. I pumped it up to about 800 because I was getting just a little bit of a tail. Okay. All right, so these are, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the way this sprays. The 411 tip is a nice tip for top coats. 4 is your fan pattern. And I find that this is, you know, a 411 should technically be putting out about an 8-inch pattern. I might have this dialed down, but you can adjust this. Let's see what this does, adjusted out a little bit. Well, that's even smaller, and all the way the other way. Yeah, it kind of depends on your distance, how far you are away. So I guess if you're, you know, if you're 10, 12 inches away, you might get about an 8-inch pattern. Dialed down, you're getting about, you know, 4 to 6 or so, 5 or 6. So yeah, I don't know, I like it. Or products. Oh, I was going to mention the products. This is Renner Wood Coatings waterborne products. The 2 top coats that I spray mostly are Renner 688 and Renner 851. This one is 688. The 688 is a 2K product. You need to add a catalyst. The Renner 851 can be used as a 1K or 2K. I usually use it as a 2K. I add the 10% catalyst. I use 404 catalyst or hardener and everything because the 688 needs the 404. The 851, you can use the 1400 or the 404. So to keep it simple, I just use 404 across the board. 404 is actually a little nicer to work with. It's a little thinner. So if you haven't tried the 404 hardener, you can use that in any of the Renner waterborne coatings, I believe. At least all the ones I've used, 765, 851, 688, 643, 648. You can use 404 in all of those. Put it in the same ratio as what you do the 1400. The 688 is probably the best of the best because it has a little higher catalyst ratio, so it's going to give more durability and more scratch resistance. They say 10 to 15%, so if you're doing 2 top coats, you don't have to go 15 on both of them. You can do 10% on the first one and 15 on the second one, which is what I often do. 10% on the first one is going to give you excellent adhesion, and then your 15% on your second one is going to give you that ultimate scratch resistance on that final top coat. Also make sure if you're using this product to catalyze your primer, especially if you're doing a refinish job. If you're just spraying over MDF or unfinished wood, maybe not quite as important because your primer is going to absorb. But if you're doing a refinish over an existing finish, definitely you're going to want to use the hardener because even if you put hardener in your top coat, use hardener in your primer for adhesion. It is going to make a difference in the long run. All right, so what else? I was going to talk about the products, and Yeah, you can buy wood. You can buy Renner wood coatings from a few different places. I get a lot of mine from Timberlane Finish Solutions in Ohio. There's also Woodworks in Indiana. So both of those have pretty much the same products. Timberlane's got a few more products than Woodworks when it comes to some of the top coats and the primers. I like 688, kind of my primary one. There's a 15 sheen, which is kind of a, the 15 sheen is kind of a matte finish. They do go as low as a 5 sheen, which is super flat. But even a 15 sheen is just a nice, more kind of a nice flat matte finish. And then they go from a 15 to a 30, and a 30 is going to be more of your satin finish. It's got a little bit of gloss to it. 851 has a, I think they go from a 10 sheen to a 25 or something like that. 25 is kind of their satin finish. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the 851's 25 sheen and the 688's 30 sheen. 688 with 30 sheen's got a nice feel to it. So does the 851 with the... one more coating I want to talk about just a little bit is the 765. The 765 is sometimes called the super hang because you can put that on really thick and it doesn't run very easily. But the 765 is actually meant to be more of a 1K product without the hardener. You can add a cross linker to it. You can add a hardener to it, but only up to about 5%. From what I'm hearing from different guys that are testing the 765 with hardener is that it's probably not as good of a product as the 851 2K. So if you're going to add hardener anyway, then go 851 with 2K. It's going to be more of a workhorse than your 765. So again, I haven't used much 765 at all. I'm kind of saying what I hear other guys doing that are testing it. Talked to the guy at Woodworks in Indiana, and he says the same thing. 851 is going to be your workhorse, and I'm hearing this from different people. So yeah, I mean, if you want a 1K product to brush and roll, or just use crosslinker, then use 765. But if you're going to go 2K, use 851 or 688. Both of those are really nice coatings. The 851 is also a self-seal product. The 688 technically is not a self-seal product, meaning you're going to have to, you're going to need to make sure you got primer, you know, a good coat of primer under your 688 before you put that on. Then on the primers, the 643 and the 688, those 643 and 648, two different primers again, but somewhat similar. The 643 again is going to be kind of your workhorse. That's going to be your kind of your #1 primer, especially if you're refinishing. So for refinish jobs, you're going to add a 10% hardener to your 643. You're going to get excellent adhesion. And 643 also helps to fill in oak a lot. A couple coats of 643, and your oak grain is going to be about gone, especially if you sand it flat between the coats and then sand it again before your top coat. 648, however, is a lower catalyst ratio, like a 5% ratio. You can use 648 on like new MDF, new cabinet doors, raw wood, and be excellent primer for that. 648 is a little thicker, meaning it might hang a little better than your 643, but it depends. If you want to do like super thick coats and you want it to hang, well then maybe 648's your answer. But if you're doing multiple coats for build and you're sanding in between, 643 is an excellent primer. So I like the 643 for refinishing and the 648 for new cabinet doors, but I'm not necessarily set on the 648 for that. The 643 does the job. Kind of more of the all-around primer you're going to use. What I've done already actually is use 643 on a refinish job. Put that on as my first coat for that good adhesion, and then use the 648, which is a higher solids. Put that on for more build for my second coat, because 643. If you're going to spray a 643 with an air assisted arrows, you're probably going to need to thin it down a little bit. Probably 3 to 5%. You're going to want to thin it down. And then yeah, so it doesn't build as much, of course, when you thin it down. The 648, you can reduce it the same amount, and you can spray it heavier and build a little more with it, and it doesn't run as quick. So I would suggest on a refinish job, if you want good adhesion, do 643, thin down just a little bit. Let that dry, use that for kind of your adhesive coat, and then put your 648 build on there. You know, build that up as much as you want with that. Sand it flat and then put your top coats on it. All right, hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Any questions, leave me a message, or yeah, and also in the messages, just let me know the kind of videos you'd like to see more of, and I'll try to do that in the future. Thanks.